The Girls on the Bus episode 9 took the journalists back to New York for the Democratic National Convention, where only 4 candidates remained in the race. The penultimate episode of The Girls on the Bus was full of twists and shocking reveals that could completely change the race's outcome and the journalists' lives. The Girls on the Bus episode 8 set up much of episode 9, with the news breaking about Walker and Novak, and Kimberlin exploring different options in her career. The Girls on the Bus characters have been through a lot, and episode 9 added more pain and heartbreak with another shocking death. The Girls on the Bus is based on the memoir Chasing Hillary by Amy Chozick, the show's co-creator. Chozick was on Hillary Clinton's bus during her failed 2008 and 2016 presidential campaigns. The journalists being on Walker's bus like Chozick was on Clinton's could foreshadow her losing the race in The Girls on the Bus, but the answer as to who will earn the Democratic nomination is still up in the air. 8. Bruce died. Bruce collapsed in his office. The Girls on the Bus episode 9 opened with Bruce giving an inspiring speech to the Sentinel's writers ahead of the Democratic National Convention. Bruce told his writers, "We may never make history, but we sure as hell are gonna write it." Unfortunately, those would be some of his last words, as Bruce collapsed and died in his office. Bruce was supposed to meet with Sadie at his favorite Chinese restaurant, but sadly never showed up, leaving Sadie without closure. Sadie and Bruce's relationship has been through many ups and downs, with Bruce unable to forgive Sadie for sleeping with loafers and not telling him sooner in The Girls on the Bus episode 5. Though they patched up their relationship in recent episodes, they didn't get to make up in person. Sadie not only lost her editor, whom she felt was one of the few people who believed in her, but she lost a friend. As she walked through New York City with the ghost of Hunter S. Thompson, Sadie realized he wasn't helpful to her anymore, at least not in the way Bruce was. Sadie told her idol, who had been pushing her to just move on, to leave her alone. The only person Sadie really wanted at that moment was Bruce, but he was already gone. Lola didn't have credentials for the Democratic National Convention. Lola's connections didn't come through. When Lola tried to enter the building where the Democratic National Convention was being held, she was turned away due to a lack of credentials. She was sent to the new media tent, but they didn't have credentials for her either. With Lola's management firing her and her going viral for attacking the freshman candidate, she's burned some bridges that have hurt her career. This also caused Lola to struggle financially, leading her to have to stay with Kimberlin during their time in New York. Kimberlin then advised Lola to use her connections in The Girls on the Bus to get credentials. She asked the freshman candidate for help first, and while there isn't any bad blood between them, she was worried about it hurting her campaign now that she's finally starting to gain traction. Lola then turned to the hot guy candidate, and while it appeared as though she'd have better luck with him, he didn't pull through for her in the end, shutting her out from the major event. 6. Annie came back home. Annie's boyfriend abandoned her. After a fight with Grace in The Girls on the Bus episode 4, Annie dropped out of college and eventually ran off with her drug dealer boyfriend to road trip across the country in a van. Grace and her husband Charlie then made the difficult decision to cut Annie off financially. After a while of no contact between them, Annie suddenly showed up at their house, claiming her boyfriend was using her for their money and had abandoned her when she was cut off. Though Charlie initially told Grace not to come home, she left New York as soon as she could to support her daughter. This was evidence of Grace's growth in The Girls on the Bus, and it was likely influenced by her conversation with her father about work and parenting. When it came time for Grace to return to New York, she invited her husband and daughter to join her for the first time in her career. 5. Loafers showed up at Sadie's hotel room. Kimberlin and Lola found out about their relationship. While Grace was at home with Charlie and Annie, Kimberlin and Lola came to Sadie's hotel room to comfort her after learning about Bruce's death. However, they weren't the only ones with that idea, as loafers showed up soon after. In her moment of grief, Sadie turned to him, not caring that it meant Kimberlin and Lola finding out about their relationship. With Walker having fired loafers, there's no longer a conflict of interest between them, and they took advantage of that in The Girls on the Bus, hooking up for the first time in episodes. Sadie and loafers still need to have some conversations about their feelings, but Sadie finally let him in and even apologized for how she treated him in the past. In another emotionally difficult episode of The Girls on the Bus for Sadie, Loafers was there for her.